So, as people probably know by now, I'm pretty well useless this month. It's the Women's World Cup. We have it on in the background.
Yes.
If you hear me completely lose my mind at some point, it'll be because England has scored a goal in the second half against Argentina.
England, Argentina.
I apologize to all of our Argentine fans. I'm rooting for England because I do love the English ladies. I think they're terrific, and a lot of my favorite players of all time were English players. So, including the two that are doing the commentary, Kelly Smith and Enia Luco. So,
Not at the moment.
not at the moment, but who are doing the commentary during the halftime. So, anyway, I'm all into women's soccer. My daughter's out of school. She's done with kindergarten now. Can't believe that happened.
Yes, graduated from kindergarten.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, born, graduate from kindergarten. That usually takes about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next thing you know.
And you know, all these people whose kids I remember when they were born, they're posting pictures of, you just moved him out of college. He's going back home for summer. I'm like, what? Really?
Next time you look up, you'll be getting her out of middle school.
Yeah.
And then she's going to want the keys to the car.
And then I'm going to be lying on my deathbed looking up and thinking, where'd all this go?
Yeah,
It's
man.
just-
Tell me about it. Talking to my mother this morning. She's like, time flies.
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
does.
Thanks, Mom, for reminding
Crazy.
me. My back hurts. It's insane.
And yet, there is somewhere in the oceans of the world some ancient prehistoric shark thing that's been around for about 1,000 years, right?
Yeah. A tree in the woods that's 1,000 years old. But, you know, I think there's a mushroom someplace that's a couple of thousand years old. I heard.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, well, that is. So, the summer is shaping up in an interesting way after the burst of Avengers Endgame, which really tapered off pretty quickly. It's still going to beat Avatar, but it tapered off real quickly.
Sucked up all the air in the room for a while, too.
And everything else is disappointing.
Well,
I mean,
let's talk about the gigantic flop of Dark Phoenix.
Oh,
I think
my
that's
gosh.
the one.
Yeah, and this weekend, what's even underperforming Dark Phoenix in its second weekend is Men in Black International in its first weekend.
Yeah. Which brings it's funny because that's Tessa Thompson from Valkyrie.
Well,
and of course
and Thor.
So I sort of got that. You know, I don't know why you make another original movie. What 20 years ago, something like that.
And the third one was already a bit of a mess.
Yeah. So I'm not sure why you pull that ripcord again.
They seem to be unable to acclimate themselves to the idea that some franchises are done.
Mm-hmm.
Because they look at them and they think, well, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to squeeze blood out of this turnip. We got to be able to somehow reinvent this for a new generation because it worked so well the first time. We'll find a way. So that's why we keep getting Ghostbusters.
And then they look for the little
Black.
touchstones of what the current generation. I think the millennials are gone. They're old now. We got one. We got a new one behind the millennials.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Whatever the hell they call them. And they look for the little touchstones to insinuate into the movies to speak to that whatever the new little group is, which of course alienates the original group.
Yeah.
So we who enjoyed the original Men in Black or whatever it is, now I hate this movie.
Yeah.
Because you're not even talking to me anymore. You're talking to that 13-year-old over there. Shaft came back as well this summer, and I got to tell you, same situation. Not looking good.
They have to find a way to be okay with taking a chance on new things.
Original content.
Gotta do it. You've gotta
Not
do
even
it.
not original content that isn't even necessarily based on some other content, what they call IP, that kind of thing. I mean, there was a time, and you and I both lived. You and I were both working in Hollywood when you could write a script. Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton.
Sure.
Sassy little script. You wrote it. Came right out of your head. Sat there with your little typewriter, actual typewriter. Wrote your script.
Shane Black.
And Shane Black.
Joe Esterhaus.
And they would make that movie that came out of that writer's head into a movie. This hardly ever happens anymore.
It all happened when the decision-making process moved away from individual creative executives and into these committee things that involved marketing people and executives who had no creative background and ancillary. What are the ancillary opportunities here? What else can we sell?
What toy? What toy?
What game?
Which I even understand in the context of most of the Disney universe now, because you know what, you can make a toy out of that. You can make a toy out of the things from the Toy Story movie. All right, fine.
Yep.
Knock yourself out with that. You can even make a toy out of all of the assets from all of the superhero movies. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out with that. Not going to mess with you about any of that. What does that say though about just a straight up drama or a comedy without a particular sort of ancillary hook? Just any given Bob Hope movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any of that, all gone, gone. So it's an odd thing. Not to mention the fact that even for the radio show that we do, our broadcast radio show, which for years has been 100% about theatrically released movies, we regularly talk about
Netflix.
Day and date movies out on at least Netflix.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The entire landscape it's a new world.
It is a whole new deal. So and in 10 years it'll be another new deal.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Although I do not think theatrical films are going to go away.
No. They always morph into something different, and they'll stick around, but they'll turn into something else, and the comic thing will go away too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start off hit some music titles here real quickly. Got a really cool documentary here, music doc called "May It Last," a portrait of the Avett brothers by Judd Apatow and Michael Bonfiglio. Judd Apatow, is in a place now where he can take a little bit of time out and do some passion projects, and that includes this documentary that is about the band, the Avett Brothers, who you probably never heard of. They're from North Carolina, and they did an album called True Sadness, which got Grammy nominations, and this is just all about that band and those guys. And this is from Oscilloscope on Blu-ray. If you've never heard of them, don't worry about it. It's still a great story. It's a really cool doc. It's an interesting story. It's a passion project for Bonfiglio and Judd Apatow. And I have to say it's a little bit like a Long Strange Trip, which I talked about a week or two ago. The Grateful Dead documentary, which is 4 hours long, and I don't even like the Grateful Dead, and it's one of my favorite docs of all time because it's a great story.
Yeah,
this is a good story too.
And Jerry Garcia is a very interesting character.
Totally interesting.
For lack of a
so
better.
you don't need to love the music to really appreciate the doc. We've also got Sinatra in Palm Springs, the place he called home. This is from Shout, and it's on Blu-ray. And it's a really interesting kind of it's sort of, this is one of those docs that just says we're not gonna try to wrap our arms around a big subject. We're gonna take a big topic, Sinatra, and then we're going to pinpoint something very, very specific about his life, because you can't do a single documentary about Sinatra.
No.
Sinatra is like 150 different documentaries.
Yeah, young Sinatra in the 60s, Sinatra, acting Sinatra.
It's just too much. Yeah, it's too much. Gangster Sinatra,
Yeah.
Sinatra and the Reagans.
Political Sinatra.
Political Sinatra, it's just too much. So this is all about Sinatra's home in Palm Springs, which was his getaway. It was like his sanctuary for over half a century. And people paid attention to this more when he was married to Ava Gardner. That was when Sinatra and Palm Springs was kind of a synonymous thing. And then he then obviously there are other episodes in his life. So this talks about why Sinatra and had such an attachment to Palm Springs, why he loved the Coachella Valley, and how that reflected in his work, in his music, in his acting, everything else. It's really very interesting, and tons of clips here, really fun stuff, a lot of stuff that I'd even forgotten that he'd done, a lot of TV stuff, and great interviews, really great interviews. So. Really a super strange subject, but a really, really interesting documentary. Very nicely put together. Then we've also got a ton of classical here from Naxos, but I'm also going to mention this DVD here from MVD, which is Woody Guthrie, the All-Star Tribute Concert from 1970. This is really a great blast from the past. Let me just say straight out, Woody Guthrie bears no resemblance whatsoever to David Carradine. I know a lot of people have seen Bound for Glory, which is a great Hal Ashby movie. And he gets the voice right, but in no way they don't look alike at all. No. So here you actually get to see the real Woody Guthrie, and what a great concert! This is not Woodstock. This is not Wattstack. This is not any of those legendary concerts from the 60s and 70s that we think about.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. But it was an important one. This was a fundraiser for the California chapter of the Committee to Combat Huntington's Disease. And that's, what it's now the Hereditary Disease Foundation, but it's what Woody Guthrie died of in 1967. And so you get this tribute to him, this tribute concert from 3 years after his death. It's narrated by Peter Fonda and Will Geer, and it features Arlo Guthrie, obviously, Joan Baez, Ramlin Jack Elliott, Pete Seeger shows up here. It's really, really, it's quite lovely. It's just quite lovely, and this has never been seen before on DVD, and this is the first time. And it's pretty great. A lot of really wonderful performances. Joan Baez is just incomparable here. And it's a nice blast from the past. And it's a wonderful thing for somebody to have unearthed. And MVD has put it out on DVD. Be nice to have it on Blu-ray, but I don't think the original film, the stock's pretty grainy. I can't imagine they're going to get much else out of it.
Yeah, well, sometimes you do that, it just makes it look worse.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. All right, so going to plow through a bunch of things here from Naxos on the classical end of things. The most interesting one here is Leonard Bernstein's Young People's Concerts, New York Philharmonic, Volume 1. You may have heard that Bradley Cooper is going to follow up Stars Born with another music biopic, which is going to be the Leonard Bernstein biopic. And he's kind of perfect to play Bernstein. He's the right age. He looks like him. It's a great acting challenge. And I think directing it, he'll do a terrific job. So I'm kind of looking forward to that in all kinds of crazy ways. The Young People's Concerts with the New York Philharmonic Volume 1 includes 4 Blu-rays. And this all took place this was aired on CBS, and it all took place between 1958 and 1972, and with a total of 52 programs that Bernstein wrote and hosted and produced, and were meant to sort of imbue a new generation with a love for classical music and an orchestral performance, and it was really amazing. It's wonderful.
Gustavo Dudamel, the conductor of the Los Angeles Symphony, engages in the same sort of thing, which of course he did in his native Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Those were great. I used to follow those.
Fantastic.
All the time.
I'd never seen any of these before, and it's just really, really wonderful stuff. So this is Volume 1. More volumes to come, almost certainly. But you got who was Gustav Mahler is on Volume 2 here, which is so interesting because I always thought I knew who Mahler was because I've seen the Ken Russell movie. I knew nothing about Mahler. Ken Russell movie is no primer on Mahler. It's a primer on Ken Russell.
They never are.
I know.
Those biopics.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. But humor in music is a really, really good one. What is Impressionism? What is American music? What makes music symphonic? It's it's just really terrific. It's just an absolute delight, and you really connect to this. If you see that, you're going to realize how great the Bradley Cooper film can be, because Bernstein was such a charismatic figure, not just a great conductor and obviously a composer, but really, really interesting. All right, let's. Here's another one. This is the Midsummer Night's Gala at Grafenegg with Joseph Kaleha, Priti Yende, Harriet Krieg, and the Tonkunstler Orchestra, directed by Yutaka Sado. Boy, I mangled every single person's name here. I tried to be cool and go through it. I got nothing right. This is from the Grafenegg Festival in 2018. When they performed a whole ton of famous opera arias, and it's lovely. There's a lot of really, if you want something that's like a greatest hits of opera arias, you could do really no worse than this. Stuff by Rossini and Verdi and Leonard Bernstein, of course, Puccini, Edward Elgar. It's a lot of wonderful stuff here. It's just one of those really nice kind of Hollywood Bowl-ish type things. And I didn't even, I had no idea there was such a thing as the Grafenegg Festival, but it's great. It's a lot of fun. So that's on Blu-ray. Also have the Lucerne Festival Orchestra performing Ravel under Ricardo Chailly. And Ravel is a bit of an acquired taste. Some people love him, some don't. This has Valse Noble and Sentimentale, La Valse, symphonic fragments from Daphnis and Chloe, which I love, which is absolutely wonderful. And of course, Bolero, which everybody knows. Bolero is like the one Ravel piece that everybody's like, if you go, who's Ravel? Oh, he did Daphnis and Chloe. Nah, never heard of it. He did Bolero. Oh, yeah, the Bolero guy. Yeah. Yeah, the Bolero guy. All right, very good. Anyway, this was recorded in August of 2018. It is lovely. We also have, let me see here. Here's a good one. Special edition, Bachman. This is from Film Rise. And this is about Bachman Turner Overdrive. And basically a concert documentary, a look into Randy Bachman and how he emerged from the Guess Who and formed Bachman Turner Overdrive, and what the music inherits from Canadian culture. I never really thought that there's like Canadian rock. Apparently there is. And so and then a lot of really good interviews here with people like Paul Schaefer and Neil Young. So that's not a brilliant doc, but certainly it's very, very interesting, especially if if the figures involved are of interest to you. The Shanghai Symphony Orchestra doing a whole bunch of selections under the conduction of Long Yu, and it includes the symphonic poem Hutongs of Peking by Aaron Avshalomov, who passed away in 1965, a composer I am not the least bit familiar with. But then you also get, which is very interesting, it's really interesting, the Hutongs of Peking. It's a symphonic poem. It's quite interesting. And then there is Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto in D, Shostakovich Symphony No. 5, and wonderful violin work by Maxim Yengarov. This is all recorded in Lucerne in August of 2017, and that is from Accentus Music. And then we get operas. I'm going to blow through these operas real quickly. Bellini's I Puritani, really interesting production with the Opera of Stuttgart in Germany. Very interesting art direction and staging, really kind of aggressive, not too avant-garde, but it's impressive. Makes really nice scale use of the stage. We also have Carl Maria von Weber's Der Freischütz. And that just should scare you all. There's just Der Freischütz. Teatro alla Scala is the performing background. This is fine. It's nothing particularly amazing. I'm not exactly a von Weber fan. It's German romantic opera performance, but it's it is passable. Mozart's Don Giovanni, the 950,000th Blu-ray of a staging of this. This one comes from C major. And this is from the Sferisterio Opera Festival, staged by Pierluigi Pizzi. And it's not better, it's not worse than any other Don Giovanni. It's basically just Don Giovanni, and it's fine. If you have other Don Giovannis, I wouldn't necessarily add this to them or trade any of them in. They kind of all fit the bill. Verdi's Stifilio. This is from the Parma. This is from the Verdi Festival in Parma at the Teatro Regio in Parma, Italy. This is from Naxos proper, not a different brand. And I didn't watch the whole thing. Watched a little bit of it. It's quite nice. It's nice Verdi. It's not one of Verdi's obviously most performed operas, but it's really good music and very, very competent kind of contemporary staging. So that's very nice. And then the last two is Coppélia, which is a ballet, and this is conducted by Pavel Sorokin. And I didn't follow the story very well, to be honest. Didn't stick with it for too long. It's based on on Tales of Hoffmann, and it's fine, I guess. It's fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't really love it. It was fine. It's performed by the Corps de Ballet, the actors, actresses, orchestra, and chorus of the State Academic Bolshoi Theater, students of Moscow State Choreographic Academy. That's the actual name of the people performing. The Russians cannot be brief about anything. And then lastly is a Donizetti opera called Il Castello di Kenilworth. And it's fine. Donizetti is also an acquired taste. This is also a really kind of cool, aggressive, modern / classical staging. It kind of mixes the best of each. But this is from Dynamic. And it's funded by the Donizetti Foundation. What can I tell you? It is what it is. There it is.
Wicked cool.
Done.
Cool. I'm going to jump into some LGBT stuff while you watch the game in the back.
Yes.
I meant to turn on the closed captioning.
Oh, that's quite all right. Don't need the closed captioning. I'm good. It's Pride Month. It's Pride Month, so
It's Pride Month, and we have some interesting stuff for our LGBT community out there, including this documentary by Donna Zaccario, To a More Perfect Union, U.S. versus Windsor. This is a doc about a very pivotal case in the history of LGBTQ rights in the justice system across the United States. So it documents this relationship between a woman and her partner of 40 years. Is
that all?
Yeah, well, tell me about it, right? And when her partner passes away, she got hit with this ridiculous estate tax because it was a gay marriage.
Right.
They weren't married at all, relatively speaking, over the course of the years. But when they did, in fact, get married, after that became a thing that folks could do, she still got hit with this.
Which would not have applied.
Exactly. Had she been married to a man. So she and her attorney, she was 80 years old at this point, and her attorney, Roberta Kaplan, went to court to fight to change this incorrection, and they managed to do it after a long, hard-fought battle. This film is really
England just scored.
England just scored.
I'm trying to
That's okay.
keep it together.
This film is fascinating for a couple of different reasons. The court case itself, which is not unlike On the Basis of Sex, that Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie. The court case itself was much like that in terms of what was at stake. What's lovely about this film is the long historical documentation of this relationship. That's really what makes the film.
Yeah.
You already know they're going to win the court case, so that's not the pivotal thing. Watching this relationship as it happens over 40 years, wonderful black and white photography and 8mm photography, because again, these folks were together for a very, very long time. So that's where this beautiful, beautiful movie actually lies. Donna Zaccario, who made this film, also made a really neat movie about Geraldine Ferraro. Geraldine Ferraro paving the way. Who, of course, Geraldine, of course,
was the first woman to be on a presidential ticket.
A major candidate on a presidential ticket. So, interesting little territory that she's taking care of there, walking around. So check that one out. Then we have Testosterone. Volume 3, third in a set of these short films that are really, really terrific short films. Some of them date back quite a ways, and they get sort of aggregated into the set. This one includes 1992, Silver Lake Afternoon. Silver Lake Afternoon was a wonderful little film that played in Outfest 4 or 5 years ago. I remember reviewing that film. Just Me. Telling Dad, which is a Andre D. Chambers film. Andre makes some really lovely films. Most of his films are about the relationships between straight men and gay men, usually sons telling their fathers, coming out to their fathers. And they're always very interesting because they don't always go the way you think they're going to go.
Right.
Most of the time, it's the gay guy that has the issue.
Yeah.
In his films, and the dad is like, "Well, we always knew you were gay, son." Right. And then sort of things that sort of pop up around that, these sort of expectations that don't get fulfilled. It's very interesting stuff, and the jealousy.
I will say this: it's really interesting too. Having gone through now 6 years or 6.5 years of parenthood, you really I don't believe that any but the dumbest parents could ever be surprised by anything about their kids. Like when my daughter throws her gnarliest tantrums, I pull her aside and I go, "Let me tell you something. I threw that tantrum once. I know why you're going nuts at 6 o'clock at night, because I used to go nuts at 6 o'clock at night. You know why you're not going to get ice cream before bed anymore? Because it sets you off like a cocaine fiend, because it used to set me off like a cocaine fiend.
Because
you
we
know,
have the same DNA.
and you know why that anger that you're giving me right now, that's not from me, that's from your mom, and I've known her a long time too. So I know everything about you better than you do.
None of this is gonna work.
So
Nothing
yeah.
is
So
gonna-
again,
No,
that's
I
the
agree
thing.
completely,
It's
right?
like parents know their kids.
No, everything. My mother and father both knew my brother. We all knew my brother was gay, for God's sakes. And it's an interesting story because like the folks in that little short movie I was talking about.
Yeah.
My dad was like, "Son, we all knew you were gay.
Yeah.
What do you want? You want the piano, or don't you?" This is a lovely little film. Before Homosexuals, from ancient times to the Victorian Crusades. This is an interesting film from the folks who did Before Stonewall and After Stonewall. So
Right.
this is like a prelude to that. And it's really just an interesting sort of a script thing. I've actually seen stuff like this on PBS. You have all these ancient Egyptian cave paintings and vases and all these sort of homoerotic scenes that are captured. And the point of it is to suggest that this thing that we used to be pretty afraid of has always been around and always will be. I like the historical sort of context of all of this. PhD, Bernadette Bruton, author of Love Between Women, narrating most of the film. Really, really interesting stuff, actually. I think so. Anyway, sorry, Angel. This is really just a really funny film about this guy in his 30s who has a young son. He goes to Brittany for work. He's living in Paris, and he goes to Brittany for work, and he meets a young man in his early 20s. Young man is just sort of realizing that he's gay and coming out and floating off into the world, and they become attracted. The complication is that the 30-year-old guy is, in fact, a father. He's gay, but he is, in fact, a father, and he has to sort of like calculate his life around his son, and the younger man wants to just sort of run wild and be footloose and fancy-free. And it's really a lovely, lovely film, and you'd probably enjoy it quite a lot. We have How to Get There from Here. This is really more of a sci-fi film than anything else. It's about this young man from this blue-collar neighborhood, and he goes back home after the death of his mother, and he finds this cardboard time machine he built when he was a little kid. and I'll be damned if that time machine don't work.
That's great.
And he uses it to explore some of the choices that he's made. It's a clever little film that sort of allows folks to look back over the arc of their life when they're involved in a critical moment, the death of his mother, and sort of make some judgments about the things they've done and where they want to go from here. How to get from here to there. It's that lovely film. This is another little thriller, and I like that these movies are mostly just genre films with sort of gay themes and gay content, but they're just genre films. This one, And Then There Was Eve. A young woman wakes up, her house has been ransacked. Everything's been taken, including all of the photos of her husband who is missing. She gets a little desperate after a little while trying to find her husband. The police are not being very helpful. She runs into a woman named Eve. Eve is a pianist, but she seems to have a sort of Agatha Christie sort of vibe about her. She can figure things out. So she and this pianist named Eve set about figuring out what happened to her life, what happened to her husband. And as she comes to realize that something terrible probably happened to her husband, but more than likely at his own hands, she starts to fall in love with Eve, and it's really sort of interesting and moving little story. And then there is this very hardcore psychological thriller here called The Skin of the Teeth. This is about a guy that goes on a date, perfectly normal date, takes a pill. When he doesn't really wake up from the pill, but when he comes around, he finds himself in a horrible situation. This is why you don't want to take pills when you go out on. Anyway, it's a crazy interrogation. There's a whole thing that's going on. It's a hell of a thrilling little film. That doesn't really have that much to do with being gay, which is again what I like about these films. See, they're making genre films. The characters are gay, but the content isn't necessarily so
interesting.
Much. Very interesting.
That is certainly a change. That's a shift.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some new films, and let's talk about the big one this week. Another barn burner for Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
With Us.
Well, Jordan has completely reconceived, well, he hasn't reconceived actually. He has reminded us of what horror films can be for.
Yeah.
Horror films were always for something other than just making you scared. They were the point at things in society. He's reminded us that they can be satirical.
Yeah.
And he reminded us, or he's taught us that they don't have to look like what they used to look like.
And see, what's interesting to me is if you look at horror films, they definitely go in phases. You go from the universal horror films,
which were
actual monsters, to
not a lot of metaphor in those. Maybe Dracula.
To then the Cold War stuff, which is
metaphors.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers and
gigantic ants,
Night of the Living Dead, and endless adaptations of things like Turn of the Screw, like The Innocents, and all. Then you start to get into some really interesting stuff, and then by the 70s, much as I love them. But you get two directors who just kind of screw everybody because they become so iconic. One of them being John Carpenter, who comes up with Halloween, and then with Hills Have Eyes, you get Tobe Hooper, obviously, is another one, obviously with Texas Chainsaw. But Wes Craven and John Carpenter were the two who really repeatedly did things from Hills Have Eyes all the way to Nightmare on Elm Street with Wes Craven, and then John Carpenter for Halloween and Endless Halloweens and everything else that he did.
They launched things. They're still making Hills Have Eyes,
and you kind of and that got us off on like a slasher vibe, right? It was all, and that leads us into everything like torture porn and the Saw films and all the rest of that. And what Jordan Peele has done is he said, let's kind of push all that away. We've had our fill of that for 30 years. And he's not much younger than you or I.
No, yeah.
And he grew and your review of Us was really interesting because you underlined the influence of the work of
Ira Levine, the wonderful novelist who of course, and screenwriter, Rosemary's Baby, and all the way up through Sliver in the early 90s, Ira Levine, the Stepford Wives, all that kind of stuff. You can see, if you can tell, Jordan, I happen to know that he grew up in New York on the East Side. And I happen to know that Mr. Levine lived on the East Side too, and you could see the influence of that. Jordan grew up watching television like you and I did in movies, and that sort of influence you can see in these movies very, very, very clearly. The sort of paranoia, the sort of questioning of what is real and what is not, and so all of that with a little bit of contemporary fears and concerns insinuated into his stories, Get Out, before, and of course this movie Us, and you find yourself in a very, very scary, but fascinating film that's speaking to a number of things more than just sort of making you go boo.
I am so grateful that because I have not been a horror fan for a long time, but I'm grateful that he's making horror films that aren't sort of going boo every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
They're designed to make my skin crawl.
Yeah.
Not sort of make me, because that's easy. It's always a loud clapping noise.
Sure.
And it's usually something that comes from off screen and just shocks you. And then you put the boom sound effect and people jump. That's cheap. But to give me something that makes my skin crawl because I identify things that are true in it. When you start speaking to truth and you're peeling the layers off of a really uncomfortable truth, and then you're asking me to think about it.
Yeah.
You present it to me in an intellectual way. Now I'm on board.
Exactly.
Now you're respecting me.
Exactly. This is Polanski, of course.
That's it. Polanski is.
They are nice to different.
And he kind of is our new Polanski in a way, isn't he?
Yeah.
Who would have thought from Key and Peele?
But you know what I'm saying? You get Roman Polanski. Yeah.
He'd become a Roman Polanski. That's so fast. Anyway. It's a terrific film.
We've got the 4K Ultra. This thing is just packed full of all kinds of stuff. We need to check out the Blu-ray, the 4K. And of course, this is one of those films that was just full of Easter eggs, even as you watch it.
Yeah.
As you watch the film, and watch it again and watch it again, each time you come away with a one of those sort of moments, and you feel more clever the more often you watch this film, and you realize how deeply clever Mr. Peele is.
Yeah.
Excellent work. Good performances in this movie, by the way. Winston Duke and Lupita Nyong'o, really, really good work all the way around.
The one thing too that I want people to really pay attention to with Jordan Peele is yes, he won an Oscar and he writes really interesting stuff, and it begins in the writing, but he takes some enormous risks in the way that he stages scenes.
Yeah,
he really does. Like and you saw that already, even in some of the sketches in Key and Peele, which I should have paid more attention to at the time. But he is very aware of camera work. He's very aware of interrupting performance and the flow of a scene with too much cutting and too much coverage. And he takes great pains to really choreograph a scene so that it's organic, so that it flows. and so that the geography of the scene is utilized in the most effective way. It's really, really smart, mature directing. It's very impressive.
Yeah, lovely marriage.
Yeah,
Narrative
really
visual.
great.
Good stuff. Where are we going?
Let's see. I'm going to talk about Lords of Chaos.
Okay.
And this is a weird, troublesome film. So Lords of Chaos features a very, very disturbing Rory Culkin performance. It is supposed to be scary and disturbing, but here's the ultimate problem with this. It's kind of overly fictionalized. This is based on a book, a 1998 book, which was also called Lords of Chaos, which is about the black metal scene in 1990s Norway. And it is, I guess, I assume that Mayhem was an actual band and that Euronymous was an actual person, apparently. So, but the rest of this is very, it's very fictionalized. And it's not really, if this were just like a musical drama about black metal, but no, it gets in, it becomes like it tries to be a thriller, it tries to be a horror film, it tries to be a procedural. And it goes in all these places which wind up sort of being stereotypical about these really dark metal movements that I don't think are necessarily true. I think it's all kind of urban myth. But, it means to be shocking. This is the uncensored director's cut. It's kind of shocking, but not really. It's a Blu-ray DVD combo set. And I can't really recommend this for anybody unless you want to see the young Culkin kind of go completely off the rails. Also got a thing here called the Slaughterhouse Rules. There's no the. It is just Slaughterhouse Rules. RULEZ. This is actually eccentric and fun and cute all at the same time. Nick Frost and Simon Pegg are in this. They didn't write it and direct it, so it's not their. They don't own it, but but they bring that same sensibility to it. It's sort of in the pocket with stuff like Shaun of the Dead and all that junk. So it's got a similar kind of a sophisticated British naughty genre vibe. It's kind of nasty, but anyway, the idea is that Slaughterhouse is the name of this boarding school, and it's supposed to funnel the men and the women who go there into prestigious social situations. But there's fracking nearby, and that opens up a sinkhole, and guess what comes out of the sinkhole? I won't tell you, but it basically winds up being Shaun of the Dead. It's a monster movie. Come on, it is what it is. Asa Butterfield is in this, and he's fine. Michael Sheen camps it up, and he's kind of funny. So I mean, it's cute. It's only on DVD, but it's fine. It's perfectly acceptable.
I've got one here called Run the Race, which is a lovely sort of slightly faith-based film.
Yeah.
From executive producer Tim Tebow, who played football for a while.
Tebow, yeah.
Yeah, I think football player.
He's playing baseball now.
Really?
Yeah.
He pulled a Michael Jordan. He pulled Bo Jackson.
Yeah, except I think it's minor league ball.
Oh,
I think he's doing minor league ball because he's just, I don't know, he's bored or something. I don't know.
I don't watch a lot of football, so that's interesting. So anyway, from him and his brother, it's called Run the Race. It's a story about a young man whose mother passes away and whose father leaves, and he's sort of left abandoned. It's him and his big brother. He turns his life toward football, which thus the football thing comes in, and it's all about how he and his brother work together to maintain his skills and his dream, and so they can sacrifice some stuff for today so they can have themselves a better tomorrow. And that's just a lovely notion. This is a sweet ass movie, and I like it a lot. With a fairly a decent cast. Not a lot on this except for a couple of bonus features, the making of the movie, and the cast talks a little bit. Run the Race.
Well, there it is. By the way, Tim Tebow plays for the New York Mets. Minor league.
Okay. Yeah. Good for him. Still playing.
That's interesting. All right. A Dark Place is pretty good. This is directed by Simon Fellows, who is quite good. This is something that would have been theatrically released by, say, a Sony Pictures Classics or an October Films once upon a time, and now it goes straight to Blu-ray. But it's actually quite good. This is a very kind of grown up, intelligent mystery thriller about a guy who's basically a garbage truck driver, and befriends a kid in the neighborhood. And then when the kid disappears, he has to. It has obviously it leads him in a certain direction. Let's just say that it leads him in a certain direction, and it's not where you think it's necessarily going to go. Yes, he becomes kind of an investigator. He kind of becomes like a rogue detective of sorts, but it creates a situation in the town, and it winds up having a very interesting commentary on small social circles and communal trust, and it's quite interesting what it does. It's quite well written, and it's very competently directed. Simon Fellows does a very, very good job, written by Brendan Higgins, and anchored by a really, really wonderful performance by Andrew Scott, an actor with whom I am not that familiar, but I hope to see more of him because he's quite good. And then also on DVD, I want to make a quick mention of 11, which is a low-budget World War I movie. Like a really low-budget World War I movie from Monarch. But, man, is it impressive what they do with not a lot of resources. They really do a wonderful job of recreating in mood what they don't have money to recreate in scale. And it's this, World War I doesn't get treated enough in movies anymore. We've kind of even World War II doesn't get treated often enough. We've moved on to Gulf War and others.
What are you gonna do?
Whatever the most recent war is, that's always the one that gets the treatment. But this is good. This is about a bunch of guys who, this is about the psychology of war and the psychology of service in war. And it all takes place on the last day of World War I. And which is always an interesting question. The war is about to end. At what point do you pull the plug psychologically?
Yeah.
And how do you do it? And are you able to do it? It's very interesting.
When did you stop being a warrior?
Yep.
Corbin Bernsen actually directs quite a lot of.
I didn't know that.
Until
I saw that come in, I was like, really?
Sort of slightly faith-based films. I like the way he does them. They're really sort of lovely. So this one is about a man who loses his wife, played by Mary Lou Henner in this particular movie, under fairly odd circumstances. While grieving, a dog shows up in his backyard. Just this dog. Tries to get rid of the dog, Dog won't go. Dog never barks, though. Dog just won't leave. Eventually, he names the dog and starts hanging out with the dog. Dog starts hanging out with him, and it's all about reclaiming faith. There's a bit of a mystery going on in this story again too. So again, doesn't sit right on top of it.
Yeah,
they're getting better at these. Doesn't sit right on top of it. Written and directed by Corbin Bernsen. It's a lovely movie. I haven't seen Mary Lou Henner in a while, so that was kind of cool too.
A thing called Wonder Park, an animated film, which is fine for kids. The thing that this really did for me, and CG animation seems to be so easy to do now, that isn't to say that it's easy, but there are small companies that are able to do movies with CG animation.
If you can buy enough computer power, you can get it done.
That's it. So this is all about this little girl whose name is June. By the way, Toy Story 4, fantastic.
Oh, really?
Loved it.
Better than 3? Because for me, that's a 1-3 situation. A 3-1 situation.
Here's the thing. It kind of reboots it a little bit, but the difference being, I was not a parent when I saw Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. Toy Story 4 kind of reboots it with a little girl at the center of it. I'm a dad. I got a little girl. I saw it on her last day of kindergarten, and there's a scene in there where the little girl goes to kindergarten orientation. I'm sorry. It was just the wrong day for me to see this thing. I was going to love it no matter what. I had a great time with it.
Outstanding.
So anyway, Wonder Park is about a little girl named June who, for reasons that I won't get into, the theme park she's always dreamed of winds up coming to life, complete with all the bells and whistles and animals and doodads and all the stuff. And it winds up becoming like a sort of a mission, an existential journey come to life. It's really it's cute. It ultimately doesn't hang together, but it's got a lot of good moments, and it's got a lot of fun extras on it as well. There's an iTunes digital movie code on it, and the thing that I kept thinking of while watching this, really good voice work, by the way, here from especially Jennifer Garner, Matthew Broderick, and Kenan Thompson. They do the best stuff. John Oliver and Mila Kunis are fine. But the thing I kept thinking of is a book, a newly released, called The Amusement Park by my friend Steven Silverman, who wrote Stanley Donen's biography, also wrote a biography of David Lean years ago. And he was just on Air Talk talking to Larry.
Yes, that's right.
He was on just yesterday, and I went and heard him do a big presentation at the Santa Monica Library the other day. Fabulous. And I don't see theme parks and amusement parks the same way at all anymore. Stephen has written an amazing book, and we're going to try to get him on this podcast to talk about his new book at some point. He's on his big press tour right now, so I'm not going to harass him and take him out of his groove. But when he's got a moment, probably catch him on Skype or on the phone, and we'll get him to talk about the amusement park, which is
all the background that he does, particularly
fantastic.
The stuff that he talked about related to stuff here in L.A., Knott's Berry Farm, and what it used to be, what used to be at the corner of Beverly. It's just fantastic stuff.
Fantastic.
A lovely sort of romance called All You Ever Wished For, which is sort of sweet. A young New York sort of fashion guy goes off to Milan to take a business trip, gets kidnapped. Whisk off to some sort of alpine village. Little does he know, the woman who runs the spot, the hotel at the alpine village, is a gypsy, and she has put a spell on that little hotel. And the first person that each of these men see, including him and his abductors, they're going to fall in love with. It's one of those, and you know what? This is just so sweet. Perfectly lovely, beautiful little film that people will thoroughly enjoy. This used to be the kind of film that got theatrical releases and would do well. And nowadays, the only way you're gonna see a film like this is you pick it up on DVD or you wait for it to stream, but you'll miss it otherwise. Don't miss this perfectly lovely little film starring Darren Criss. It's really, really sweet.
So got a thing here called Crypto. This is a Blu-ray and digital copy combo set from Lionsgate through or from Grindstone through Lionsgate. Grindstone again does all these really kind of cheesy action films and then movies about talking animals.
Yeah,
that's what they do. It's two tiered. They have two prongs. Anyway, so here's what they do. They hired a bunch of actors. They just threw money at a bunch of named people: Alexis Bledel, Luke Hemsworth, and Kurt Russell. And said, be in our crappy movie about a ridiculous subject, and then don't complain.
Yeah,
and that's what happens. And this is something that basically the mob, like some global syndicate, is laundering money through an art gallery. And Bo Knapp, with whom I'm not that familiar as an actor, but he's fine. So Bo Knapp is the Wall Street guy. Who discovers this thing going on, and then it becomes very Hitchcockian and kind of man on the run, blah 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 blah. Luke Hemsworth is fine. Kurt Russell is sort of going through the motions, and Alexis Bledel still looks like she's 18 years old, which is astonishing to me. It's not great. It's not horrible. It's just kind of grindstone-y.
Well, this sucks. Kiss Kiss. Dallas King. This will make up for how that one's not all that bad. There's an actor in this film named Robert Wagner. He's not that Robert Wagner. He's this young guy named Robert Wagner. You should probably put like an E or something in there. Robert E. Wagner or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You really don't want anybody going around thinking you're Robert Wagner. Then again, I suppose you have to be of a certain age to even know who the other Robert Wagner was. If you're under 50, maybe you don't even know who that is. I wonder if this guy even knows he's named after. Notice how I'm talking about him and not this stink-ass movie he's in? Because the stink-ass movie, Kiss Kiss, it's about these four strippers, and they decide to go out for a day in the valley drinking wine. One of them takes out there. They get kidnapped by this guy.
Of course,
and they get forced into these death fights.
Of course.
So I hate it when strippers get kidnapped and forced into these death fights. It's so dumb. In any case, bonus features, behind the scenes stuff, a few deleted scenes, and blah blah blah. Director's audio commentary. Kiss Kiss, a film by Dallas King.
All right, so the last of the new movies today, I got a bit of a story about. So, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. Released by and theatrically and on Blu-ray by Screen Media. This is the Terry Gilliam film that was never
yeah.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
It was originally supposed to be a Johnny Depp film. Anyway, look, here's the story. Terry Gilliam, his whole life, has wanted to make the story, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. It's a kind of a variation on Don Quixote and the whole La Mancha fable that combines a present day thing where they're making a movie about Don Quixote, and then it's very meta, right? The director who's making it winds up falling into an unexpected life adventure that mirrors the story of Don Quixote, and then some weird sort of fantastical existential things start happening, and it means to get a little time bandity and a little Brazil-y. It's very much a Terry Gilliam thing.
It's back when he was first going to do it. It was back when Terry still built things.
Yes.
Before CGI
when he got
over.
budgets.
He built some great sets. Yeah.
So here's the story of this. I have a very interesting story on this because I'm kind of part of this in a peripheral way. The original Terry Gilliam film was, back in the 90s. Was supposed to star Johnny Depp, and had a whole different cast. Famous French actor was going to play Don Quixote.
Jean Rochefort. Right?
Jean Rochefort, exactly. Jean Rochefort was going to play Don Quixote, and this was going to be bonded by, and if you don't know how movies work, movies at a certain budget need to have a completion bond. You pay a certain percentage to a completion bond company, which guarantees that for the investors that the movie will be finished in some form, and if it doesn't meet certain metrics, then they get to come in and take it over and make sure that a saleable product is completed. So it's like you get bonds when you do construction projects as well. And it's basically a reinsurance thing. So at the time, the completion bond company that was going to bond this, or was considering bonding it, my wife was basically their vetter. And that's what she does. She tells you whether or not your movie makes sense. Very, very talented producer she is. And by the way, our short film went fabulous. We shot last week.
Well, I thought, I did that,
really
no
good.
doubt.
It was very stressful, long nights, but she nailed it. And so did our buddy who wrote and directed it. So I sent you the pictures too. It doesn't even look like a short film.
No, it looks like a Lawrence of Arabia.
It looks like 30 people and rubble and Syrian war recreation. What the hell's going on here? It's a short film. What kind of short film? Anyway, so I remember very clearly the day I'm sitting there watching something horrible on TV, and my wife finishes reading the script, the Terry Gilliam script, and she looks at me and she tosses it in my lap and she says, "Can't be done. Under budgeted by more than half. Read it. Tell me what you think." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of mean."
Or true.
It's a Terry Gilliam film, but her feeling was Terry Gilliam tends to have problems on his movies. He's kind of, every one of them, something always goes wrong.
Yeah.
And she said, these flights of fancy and the imagination and recreation of, moments from the story and it's just too opulent. There's just too much going on. You don't have
for that budget.
For that budget. It's not realistic. And so I read it. Very interesting. I thought, well, I could see Terry Gilliam knocking it out of the park with this. You give him enough money, but you tell me. I don't know what budget this needs. Anyway, my wife advised against it. But they went ahead and did it anyway because it was Terry Gilliam. Next thing you know, the set gets washed away by a flood, and the Jean Rochefort breaks his leg, and everything goes wrong. Yeah. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong, and the movie never gets made. But the documentary about the making of the movie, Lost in La Mancha, that gets made and becomes more than a DVD extra. It becomes its own standalone film, and a very, very good one, made by the guys who did The Hamster Factor, which was an extra on 12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys, yeah.
Which, as it turns out, a very good friend of ours in the UK represented one of the filmmakers, and his dad was an investor in that documentary and made a pretty penny off it.
Yeah.
So, all unbeknownst to us, we found this out during a trip to London once. But in any case, that brings us forward to the present day, where Terry Gilliam finally took another bite at the apple. Instead of a Johnny Depp movie, it now becomes an Adam Driver movie. And he winds up getting Jonathan Pryce to play. His old trusty buddy Jonathan Pryce from Brazil plays Don Quixote, which is good casting. Throw in Stellan Skarsgård and, Olga Kurylenko and, a bunch of other name actors. And a fragment of the budget he was even going to have on the first time around. And what do you get? You get a really underbaked movie that could have been great if they had had more money.
Yeah.
And that's what you get.
Which is what the problem was in the first place.
It's always been the problem. And it's really unfortunate. There are some wonderful moments in it. but it doesn't hang together. It just doesn't quite hang together. And it's very sad. I wish it were better. But it's going to be, one of Terry Gilliam's most talked about films. It had its own problems, which included being sued by the investor who tried to shut it down and prevent it from even being released, and a fight over Final Cut. So it still wasn't out of the woods, but it is now on Blu-ray. It is out of his mind. The monkey's off his back. So hopefully Terry can find it in himself to do something else.
Yeah,
now.
Think about something else because Terry's the Imaginarium.
Dr. Parnassus.
Oh my God, Terry's been gone for a while now. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Little TV.
Let's do TV.
You and I both love the reboot, imagination of Lost in Space.
Yes.
The complete first
gosh.
season. I
love
this
this
show.
show.
So Lost in Space, we'll recall the sort of campy Guy Williams and all this stuff with Billy Mummy and all that. Dr. Smith. Forget about all that.
No.
They take it dead serious. The Robinson family goes into space. They reconfigure things a bit, but all the familiar characters are still there.
Yeah.
You got Poser Parky. Just
Parker
killing it. Parker Posey. Thank you, Posey Parker. Parker Posey playing Dr. Smith and just killing it. Totally psychotic the way she plays him. Nothing like what was going on before. Love that they made Will Robinson a much younger boy.
Yeah.
Than Billy Mummy was during that series. It's a very clever thing they do because they make him, because he's so young.
Yeah.
But still brilliant.
Yeah.
He can be afraid. He's scared of what's happening. They go off into space. Just the same thing's going on. I love what they do with the two daughters.
Love the two daughters. Love Penny, them so much.
They're smart. They're strong.
Yep.
The mom, played by June Lockhart in the series, who was sort of like the mom from Leave It to Beaver. Even in the Lost in Space series, not that in this series. No. She's the brains behind the operation. Dad is right there, but he's a Marine. Dad is there to
Molly
break
Parker. Molly Parker, great
the
Canadian actress, plays the mom, and she's. I mean, I've always loved Molly Parker, but she's so perfect here. Toby Stevens plays the dad. Who's also been in Black Sails. No, it is just an absolutely terrific new show. I love it. The new season is coming out soon, which is why I'm glad this is out finally now on Blu-ray. But it's fantastic. The actresses who play the daughters are just
Taylor. What's her name? The young black actress, Canadian black. Taylor Russell is her name.
Taylor Russell.
And I love the way they construct the story.
And Mina Sundwall plays Penny.
And Taylor's black and Julius White. They're both the children of Molly Parker. And I love the way they account for that.
Yeah.
Because Molly had a life before she met that dad.
Yeah.
They had that baby. And it's just really, really good. And the way they frame the story out in that first season is absolutely thrilling. The robot is not the robot.
It is not, and that's what makes it so well. It's the way that they switch up the robot.
Yeah.
Well, they do a lot of things. And look, it's not scientifically, it's no more believable than the original show. It's ridiculous, but it does ask some big existential questions, and it has a future Earth scenario that is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It switches up Dr. Smith with Parker Posey. It switches up the robot, makes it really, really interesting. Mm-hmm. It switches up the family dynamic, so they're not just sort of this perfect nuclear family, like you said. You know, it's almost a Brady Bunch kind of scenario with the family. And honestly, that scene where Judy is trapped inside the water.
Opening scene, the pilot episode. My God.
It's one of the best things I've ever seen on television.
The most thrilling thing, one of the most thrilling things, it really, really got me going.
No,
beautiful.
It's so good.
Great on Blu-ray, all kinds of stuff on this, including the unaired pilot from the original 1965 series, now in color. Don't know that I like that.
That's what they went back to. That was before Dr. Smith was added because it was originally supposed to be the Swiss Family Robinson in outer space. And the original show deviated from that. These guys were smart enough to say, maybe that was a great idea originally. Let's go back to that.
And basically redo what they were going to do before,
we got Drop Dead Diva, the complete series. You know, I never really cared for this. I know what they were going for, and it never felt like they quite achieved it. It's the whole inner beauty thing, Shallow Hal, kind of inverted for television. I get it. I know what you're trying to do, and this is, what is beauty and what does it mean to? We've all been in that. I've seen that movie and that TV show a million times. However, there is a supernatural aspect to this where a whole reincarnation thing, and like it's like the body switching movies melded with that. I don't know. It never really pays off its premise. It opens up more issues than it's ever really able to grapple with. However, it has some nice guest starring bits and some nice performances, and a lot of people really enjoyed it. It ran for 6 seasons incredibly, which I was always amazed by. So it is now out on DVD, complete season from Mill Creek, and never mind me if you like it.
First season of Swingtown, a 2008 series, which also starred Molly Parker. Interesting enough, and this is an interesting little season. Only had the one season, set in 1976. Right there at I guess it was America's 200th birthday. Anyway. And you have these sort of suburban couples who are doing the sort of 70s swinging thing, man. Because that's apparently what happened in the 70s. Which, by the way, I was alive in the 70s. I was like a teenager, and that didn't happen at all. It's a few weird places in New York, maybe Florida. Nevertheless, this was a fun series. Loved the hair, loved the Dacron polyester outfits. But didn't last all that long. Season 2 of Killing Eve picks up exactly where season 1 leaves off. So if you watch season 1, you'll know what that means. Somebody died at the end of season 1. And we're going to pick up right there and roll forward. This was pretty good. I didn't watch all of season 1 of this. This is a 2-disc set. But folks really like this show quite a lot. Like I said, not that big of a fan, but if you liked season 1 of Killing Eve, season 2 picks up right where it leaves off and presses forward from there. A few bonus features on this, including a little primer that helps you get caught up to what happened in season 1 if you don't want to go through watching all that stuff again. All right, talk.
Shangri-La is a TV series that I had never heard of before. It started in 2016. Season 1 is now out on Blu-ray, and they sent us the season 1 CD soundtrack as well as the Blu-ray. And boy, these guys are really, really they're pushing it. This is really a labor of love. It's a low budget kind of standalone series about Hollywood and making it in Hollywood and being homeless and having dreams and all of this stuff that you really probably don't fully process unless you live around it nonstop all the time like we do. And it really does capture something. It's really it's a really sweet little series. It's there's not a ton of money that went into it, but there's a lot of passion and clearly a lot of belief. They really these people just kind of poured their hearts into this series from the ground up, and it feels like it. It's got a real I hate to say mumblecore, but it's kind of like a low budget mumblecore comedy series. And it really does capture something here. It captures something very, very specific about Los Angeles that a lot of others just haven't. And I find it very, very charming. I am looking to seeing other seasons in the series as well, and some wonderful performances here. Wonderful actors that you can go on to do other things. Mark Borchardt, Jesse Conweiler, Sean Hanley, Nick Summer. Some of these names are going to be you're gonna know them eventually. Written and or edited and directed by Drew Rosas. And check it out. See if you can find it around. Shangri-La, and the law obviously being L.A. It's a little play on words. Shangri-La, Season 1 on Blu-ray.
Very, 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 very loosely based on true events of the Black Dahlia case here in Los Angeles some many, many years ago. I Am the Night stars Chris Pine and India Isley. An interesting sort of conceptualization of that period, of that period, 1965, 1950s, 1960s. This comes from Patty Jenkins, so it's sort of conceived very nicely there. I don't know. I enjoyed this a little bit. It's created by Sam Sheridan, who's created a couple of interesting series as well. I would say that depending on whether or not you are a stickler for accuracy in the representation of historical crime fiction, it will depend on how you feel about the series. If you go into this thinking, this is going to reveal something for me about that period, that Black Dahlia period, that's simply not going to happen. With this series, it takes all kinds of flights of fancy away from that. Nevertheless, if you just look at this as a very engaging drama and thriller with a mystery at the center of it, it's actually not particularly bad. Pretty good. You get inside the special features. You get inside the episodes. You get some myths inside the Snowden house, et cetera, et cetera. And who is Fauna Hode, who is the central character of the series, who's played by India Asley, and she was a real person.
We're gonna do some classic film stuff now. Hitting the Kino releases. Got a couple more from the American Film Theater line of Kino classics. That, of course, is the series of films that were produced by Ely Landau back primarily in the 1970s. All of them adapted from famous stage productions. We've talked about those in few recent weeks. Got two more there. Lost in the Stars by Kurt Weill and Maxwell Anderson, and then Bertolt Brecht's Galileo, starring Topol. The real killer here is Galileo because it was directed by Joseph Losey, the great Joseph Losey. And John Gielgud and Patrick McGee and Tom Conti, and it's a pretty great cast. But Losey's direction is really interesting. It's very uncharacteristic for what he did previously, but it is Brechtian, which is the important thing. It's based on Brecht, so he decides to direct it in a very Brechtian way, and it's a Brechtian theatrical cinematic fusion thing with wonderful performances. And Topol is great, absolutely great, and it's really worth checking out. The other one, Lost in the Stars, I'm a little less enthralled by this one, probably because I just don't love the material quite as much. Brock Peters, Melba Moore, Raymond St. Jacques star in it. Whatever happened to Raymond St. Jacques?
Oh, well, yeah, wonderful black actor.
Whatever happened to him?
Yeah.
He just kind of had his moment in the 70s, and then he's gone, and he should still be around, I would think. No, anyway, it's it's based on the novel Cry the Beloved Country, which has been made into a movie twice, and I think both of the previous movies are better than this one, especially the most recent one from it's been about 20 years now, right? The James Earl Jones one.
Oh yeah,
with Richard Harris and James Earl Jones. That was about 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, if not more.
Anyway, that is an amazing film, and that's really the best here. But in terms of what it says about apartheid era South Africa and when it was made in 1973, obviously that's a very, very different vibe as opposed to when the last Cry the Beloved Country was made, which is post apartheid. So looking back on it, so I do cut it a little bit of slack, but still. Brock Peters was better in To Kill a Mockingbird, and I don't know that I like this interpretation all that much. It's called Lost in the Stars. So here's the rest of our Kino Classics line, and I'm going to go through this as fast as I possibly can. We got a special edition of Anthony Hopkins and Nixon, an Oliver Stone film that I despise. I think Tim's a lot more forgiving of it. I just think this is like a really obnoxious, and he plays Nixon like a gargoyle. It's with the head and the whole thing. It's like he wasn't that ugly.
I've always appreciated that performance mostly.
Yeah, it's got 2 audio commentaries on it. It includes the director's cut and the regular cut. The commentary for the theatrical cut is Jim Hemphill, who's a film historian. Oliver Stone does the director's cut. And then there's also, a documentary and deleted scenes and commentary from Oliver Stone on the deleted scenes and a Charlie Rose interview with Oliver Stone, which is very disturbing to watch. And I don't know that the movie is that good, but there you go. If you love it.
They kept the Charlie Rose interview on there, did they?
They did. Isn't that amazing?
Interesting.
Jack Nicholson in The Border.
Oh, man, I love that movie.
A better movie than it got credit for at the time.
Yeah,
directed by Tony Richardson.
Flop
the great
at the time.
I know it was a flop. It just really tanked. But man, it's really looking back on it now, especially in the current environment.
In the current environment, yeah, you kidding?
Yeah, Valerie Perrine is terrific as his wife. Jack Nicholson playing this really disturbed border agent. Ry Cooder does a fantastic score for this thing. It's really, really good. No, this is a sharp film. Harvey Keitel and Warren Oates co-star. Very sharp. Well directed by Tony Richardson. Worth checking out. Also have Thirst, the Park Chan-wook film, which I know we're supposed to say Park Chan-wook. I apologize for my bad Korean pronunciation. This is this is his vampire film. I guess after watching Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Old Boy and Lady Vengeance, it was inevitable that he would say, I've got to do a vampire movie, just like Abel Ferrara had to. Got to put my spin on that. It's not as good as his other films, but it's still pretty creepy. It really, really pushes your buttons. Not a lot here. There's an entertainment journalist commentary by Brian Reisman, and that's about it. But It's on Blu-ray, and I'm glad because it is worth checking out. Mississippi Burning, one of my all-time favorite Alan Parker films from 1988. It got this film was picked apart at the time because it's ultimately basically about two white FBI agents. It takes a very, very serious incident, a civil rights era incident, and turns it into a detective procedural. Yeah, which it probably shouldn't have at the time.
Well, it makes them the heroes of the story.
It makes them the heroes of the story. This was on its way to a Best Picture win, by the way, when that was raised as an issue, and then everybody got cold feet and said, we'll vote for Rain Man instead. Yeah. And that's how Rain Man became that year's Best Picture winner. The same thing kind of happened with Zero Dark 30. Mm-hmm. People were like, "Oh, really? Are you sure?" It kind of if it, just on the off chance that people think it condones torture, I'm going to vote for Argo instead. Yeah, exact same thing happened. Yeah. Even though I think this is a better film than Rain Man, it does have that issue, but it's still really well made. There's some really good stuff in it. Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe are terrific, and it's got the lynching montage in this thing will make your blood run cold. Yeah. It's the only time I've ever seen that depicted in a film in any kind of a realistic way. Yeah. And it's chilling. It's absolutely chilling. But nonetheless, it remains a movie to be discussed and debated. Trevor Jones has a really good score on it. Has an audio commentary by Alan Parker, and there it is. The Brink's Job, William Friedkin's very misguided movie about the Brink's heist, famous Brink's heist. I read a book called on the Brink's Job at the time, and which is much more interesting than this movie. It doesn't quite get the tone right. Good score by Richard Rodney Bennett, audio commentary by a couple of film historians, but. I don't know. It's a misfire for William Friedkin especially, and this tremendous all-star cast. Michael Crichton was a director once upon a time, made a lot of really bad movies, and then he decided, I'm just going to write novels that get made into better movies. So one of those really unusual movies that he directed was called Pursuit with Ben Gazzara, Martin Sheen, and E.G. Marshall. And they also get a comic artist and a film historian to do an audio commentary on here, which is okay. The movie is not great. It's kind of the standard thing that he always does. It's the standard Westworld, Jurassic Park scenario, Andromeda Strain. Science is getting away from us, and we need to beware. That's basically what it is. It's all about nerve gas and in the Republican convention, and they're gonna, it's a sabotage. A little bit of Black Sunday in there too. It's really kind of stupid, but Ben Gazzara is good. They Might Be Giants is a wonderful movie with George C. Scott as Sherlock Holmes. I know you're thinking George C. Scott as Sherlock Holmes. That doesn't make any sense. You wait till you see it. It's actually really, really good. Anthony Harvey directed this, who did The Lion in Winter. It was produced by John Foreman. It's actually a really unusual kind of it's an interesting spin on the Watson Holmes thing, because it's not really a Holmes and Watson story. It's about a guy who thinks he's Sherlock Holmes, and Joanne Woodward plays Watson. And I won't go into all the different details about it. You need to see it. It obviously did, the female Watson thing before Lucy Liu was female Watson on television. F. Mary Abraham's in this thing. It's really a very, very sharp film from 1971. It deserves to be rediscovered, and I say check it out.
Lucy Liu's playing a blonde Watson on Elementary this year.
Blonde, really?
Yeah, she's blonde.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Stockard Channing in another forgotten classic from 1973, The Girl Most Likely to ... This was before she did Grease, obviously, 5 years before she did Grease. This is a brand new transfer. It's pretty good. She plays a college student who undergoes a transformation through plastic surgery, which changes her life. And it's a comment on beauty and social constructs that still holds true. And it winds up being really unusual. It was written by Joan Rivers, believe it or not. or at least co-written by Joan Rivers. And it's a very, very smart script and has a lot of really, really interesting sporting performances in it, including Reb Brown, who is usually a terrible actor and shows up really good here. Chuck McCann is in this, too. Love Chuck McCann.
Yeah.
Let's see, just a few more here real quickly. Lana Turner in Madam X. Also co-starring Burgess Meredith and Keir Delay and Ricardo Montalban. Really a terrific cast. This is from 1966, the last of a kind of quasi-Hitchcockian adaptations at the time. This is based on the play by Alexandre Besson, and it centers on a blackmail incident and what happens 20 years later. And it's not originally very Hitchcockian, but they try to give it a Hitchcockian flair and a look at the time, because that's what everybody was going for in the mid to late 60s with stories of this type. And it's actually quite sharp. I still love it. I think Lana Turner is terrific in it. I think Burgess Meredith is great in it. And this also has a couple of film critics and historians doing commentary. Arabian Adventure with Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Mickey Rooney. I know. What's Mickey Rooney doing with the Hammer horror guys? I don't know. It's whatever. It's kind of like Aladdin, except not, if that makes sense. But it's actually in many respects a better Aladdin than Aladdin was. Still, I think it's worth checking out. If you've seen the new Aladdin, which I have very mixed feelings about, you might want to check this out. Christopher Lee is terrific as the evil caliph. And some really, really fun special effects in this as well. It's a little bit of a mess. Kevin Connor, who did The Land That Time Forgot, directed it, and Peter Cushing is in it just kind of for the ride along. Mickey Rooney is hilariously miscast, and I check it out. The director does a commentary. This was from 1979. Films like this were already passé at the time because Star Wars and Close Encounters had changed the game. So this is like a 1960s movie in the end of the 1970s. Lana Turner also shows up in Portrait in Black along with Anthony Quinn and the fantastic John Saxton. This is just kind of a standard second tier melodrama. It's a little bit of The Postman Always Rings Twice from 1960. It's not tremendous, but it's got a good sporting cast, which includes Sandra Dee and Richard Basehart and Ray Walston of all people. But not brilliant by any means. Michael Gordon was kind of a journeyman director, and he's sort of a journeyman film. Michael Caine in Kidnapped, which is a Robert Louis Stevenson story that deserves a better adaptation than this. This is not terribly good. Michael Caine is really the only great thing in it. It also has Jack Hawkins and Trevor Howard, who did a lot of this stuff at the time. All those adventure films, they always seem to show up in them. This was an AIP release here, so it's very much kind of an attempt by Corman and Arkoff and Nicholson to do something that was more legit than what they usually did. All right, Tim, what do we have from Shout this week?
Let's see. A couple of different things, including this Universal Horror Collection, which is kind of cool. So you had the big boys. Look at that, folks calling. You had the big boys, Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, who created some of the most cinematic, memorable characters in the film. And then they did some movies together, which is what this collection pulls together. The Black Cat, The Raven, The Invisible Ray, and Black Friday puts those two wonderful horror icons in the same movies at the same time. And they're all a lot of fun. You can't go wrong when you got a movie with both Karloff and Lugosi in them. And these movies all work pretty good, too. We also got Peter Cushing and Frankenstein Created Woman. So this is Peter Cushing playing Frankenstein. This is an interesting point in the series out of the 60s where Cushing decided that he was going to start taking the souls of ordinary people and insinuating those souls into the bodies of these creatures that he creates. It's kind of creepy. Lots of special features on this, including a new original 2K scan, which is kind of nice. Neat as well as an audio commentary. from a couple of film historians. Eli Roth. Eli Roth likes the kind of movies that we just talked about, so he makes them, including The Green Inferno. Eli Roth's The Green Inferno, an absolutely terrible movie, as are all of those. I mean, Eli gave us the Hostel series and all that kind of stuff. He likes the stuff, and for folks who dig it, I guess it's kind of interesting. This is a little bit ironic. A group of environmental activists fly to Peru to try to protect the rainforest or whatever they're doing, and they crash their plane, and the very tribe that they were going to Peru to protect tries to eat them.
There you go.
That's what happens.
It happens.
That's what happens. When
it
you
happens
do stuff
a
like
lot.
that, the entity. Barbara Hershey, back in the late 70s, early 80s, did a couple of interesting films, including this one about an invisible entity that keeps basically raping her. I don't know that you could make this movie today.
No, you could not.
Every place she goes, this unseen entity just
like
has
the ultimate Me Too.
Oh yeah, and so don't know if you could do that today. Lots of special features on that too, by the way. Interviews with the actors Barbara Hershey and a few other folks. The Last Seduction is a Morgan Fairchild movie. Morgan Fairchild. Whatever happened to Morgan?
She looks great.
I can't imagine she wouldn't.
It's ridiculous.
Beautiful blonde.
Yeah.
She plays this anchor woman in L.A. Young Stephen Andrews becomes smitten with her. She, tries to play him off a little bit. It basically becomes one of those stalker films, and nobody can help her. The cops can't. Her boyfriend can't help her. The cops can't help her. Again, not sure you can make this movie today in this context, but it is a film about a woman who eventually fights back. So maybe you could get away with that one. The Last Seduction, again, lots of special features on this. Interviews with the actors, Morgan and Stephen Andrews and Bruce Cohen and all the guys who were involved in the making of the film.
And we got a couple other shout titles here, which are obviously timed for Pride Month. They are both part of the Shout Select line. They are numbered 80 and 81. The first one is To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar, which, of course, came on the heels of The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and is kind of the same thing. It's a drag movie. It's a drag road trip. Yeah. And it's basically that exact thing, except not an Australian film, and it takes Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John Leguizamo.
About 1995 or so. That's more than 20 years ago.
Yes,
they look 95. Great. They look great as girls in 95.
They look fabulous.
They would not be able to pull any of that off today.
No, they would not. They certainly would not.
Do that today.
Well, Patrick Swayze no longer with us.
Oh, Patrick is gone. Yeah,
but Leguizamo and Snipes still are, and they still look great. But they wouldn't be.
Wouldn't pass as ladies.
No, couldn't do that. Also makes me sad seeing Chris Penn in this, because Chris was still with us at the time. I knew Chris in junior high and high school. But I mean, look, it's not great, but it sort of pushes a lot of the same buttons. I would recommend Priscilla to anybody who's asking. It's a much better film. But nonetheless, this is there, and it's got some extras on it, a new little making of, look back on the film, and some deleted scenes. The other one is Jeffrey, with Steven Weber, Patrick Stewart, and Sigourney Weaver. Kind of the which it's a little bit dated because it's very much rooted in the AIDS crisis as it bleeds into the 1990s.
Michael T. Weiss in that film. It used to be in The Pretender.
Yeah.
The guy in The Pretender. That's when you could get away with having a bunch of straight people play gay people.
Yes, you could. And this is very much kind of a romantic comedy of a type that was very specific to the 1990s. But and it's adapted from the Paul Rudnick Broadway play, or off-Broadway play, I guess it was. And it does a decent job. Patrick Stewart is hysterical.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to see this for any reason, you see it for Patrick Stewart, because he gays it up like
Jeffrey.
He is just so.
And that is post Jean-Luc Picard. That's post Captain Picard.
It is. So he really. But he's not doing a stereotype.
No,
is the thing. He is playing a very particular kind of older gay man.
Yeah.
Who it existed then and exists now.
Yeah,
and
I love that movie. Yeah.
And he is terrific in it. So it doesn't quite transcend the play, but it's got its moments. And then we're going to wrap out with some Criterion stuff real quickly. The first I'll make mention, and I know months later, we will get to the complete Bergman set that is still a monster. Just trying to find time for that. But they took the famous Bergman trilogy, Through a Glass Darkly, Winter Light, and The Silence, about which I wrote many essays in school, is now out together as a trilogy in a lovely little package. And all three of these films are great. Through a Glass Darkly, well, gosh, it's hard to say which is. I hate to say any of them are better than any of the others. They're not a trilogy in terms of having the same characters. No. They're a trilogy in that they deal with certain themes of loneliness and alienation. And Bergman meant for them to all tackle it. Winter Light is wonderful about a minister who is wondering why God is silent. The silence kind of continues that theme. Through a Glass Darkly takes place. It's a family on an island, and it deals with madness and the impact of being alone in a physical world. I've never seen Spiders the same way ever since seeing that and reading the script. Anyway,
that movie came out in 1961. That's the year I was born.
Oh yeah, I mean 61, 60, and 63. Yeah. Winter Light and the Silence were made in 63.
Back to back.
But what's really great here is that they have introductions to the films that Bergman had recorded before he passed. It was in 2003. And they have Ingmar Bergman Makes a Movie, which is this amazing 5-part documentary for Swedish television that was made at the time of Winter Light by the great Vilgot Sjöman, another one of the legendary Swedish directors. And
real cinema verite, just following him around.
It's great. It's so good. And then they have...
What's interesting in that documentary is we get to see how often unsure Bergman was.
Constantly.
Just notes and renotes and really how the great cinematic master, but he was
always trying to find the movie. Yeah. He was always trying to find it and working with his actors and yeah, it's brilliant. The other two Criterion titles, look, I can recommend them because they're Criterion, but they're Bruno Dumont, so I'm not going to. La Vie de Jésus and L'Humanité. Look, there's like sex stuff in La Vie de Jésus that is completely pointless and overwrought, and I don't care for it at all. The fact that it exploits a guy with epilepsy as its main subject doesn't sit well with me either. L'Humanité was made in 1997. 2 years later he did L'Humanité in 1999. And it's got more, unnecessary sexual stuff in it. And
he's got a Joan of Arc coming out this year.
I know. Yeah. Look, here's the thing. I'll leave you with this. I moderated an event with Bruno Dumont and a bunch of other filmmakers years ago at Colcoa. And right out of the gate, Bruno insulted everyone else on the dais. And fortunately, Robin, the amazing translator, she and I made eye contact, and I pleadingly looked at her and said, please save this moment. And she somehow translated what he said into something that was the same but not insulting. I don't know how she did it, but everyone else breathed a sigh of relief. And I moderated another panel with him a few years later, like about 2 years ago, I think it was. And he was on his best behavior. He grew up a little bit, but he's an iconoclast. He makes movies that are very shocking and aggressive. He's part of the new French extremism that we're always talking about. I don't particularly like any of that stuff.
We shall see what he does with Joan of Arc. That'll be
I'm not really looking forward to it. I mean, he's in the same realm as Gaspar Noé. He's not as horrific as Gaspar Noé. He's a better filmmaker than Gaspar Noé, but he still tries to push buttons, and he still tries to sort of shock you in ways that I think is immature. Just tell a story. I don't need cannibalism and deviant sex. I don't need all that stuff all the time. Just tell me a story, man. Anyway, so Bruno Dumont finally gets baptized into the Criterion Collection with La Vie de Jésus and L'Humanité. And with that, folks, we're well over time, but it's been a good week, and we are done. We're going to have 2 more shows, and then we're going to take a hiatus for the 4th of July weekend, which is a long weekend here. And we'll be back after that week. So 2 more shows before the 4th of July weekend, and I still think that that the Avengers Endgame has a chance on that 4th of July weekend globally to pass Avatar.
Crossing the mark.
That's what I'm predicting. Yeah. Let's see if it does it.